thing, it's like up and down, right? And everybody has an opinion that they want to tell you about what you should do and when you should do it and how you should do it. So um, there's really the best thing I found is building my life and sticking true to the things that I believe in that work for me and that gaining experience from others. So I think we'll do some of that today.
That's fantastic. First, really quickly, I know I want to recognize people have come into the meeting group. People expecting people to come in and out, which is fine. We just started recording now, so I'm going to have to go back and later on actually add what what we started with. Mostly it's me just prattling on. But for those who have just joined, I do want to say again, thank you for being here. There is replays available if you can't make it to the very end. If you do make it to the very end, though, I'm going to have some gifts for you that I can share with you. So that includes even if you're here for like a little bit or for the whole thing. If you can stay for the whole thing, though, please do, because at the end, after we finish speaking, that's when a lot of the interactivity will happen when we're all taking our turns. In the meantime, as we go through, we're going to be doing some training first. When we do the training, please do put in the chat. As for interactivity, we are moderating that. We'll get back to it and we will respond to it. But the actual like be on screen thing will happen in a bit. So without further ado, I just realized listening that I forgot to mention how old I was. Well, I was 37 when my husband passed away. He was 40. Again, it was sudden. It was traumatic. It was 3 days of not knowing whether he was brain dead or not because I found him 3 days in the hospital after I found him blue. We didn't know whether he was brain dead or not. It was a cardiac arrest, which is different than a heart attack. There's nothing I could have done anyway. And that really kind of helped my what ifs that were going through my brain. If I was there, something could happen. But anyway, so my son was 2.5, and my daughter wasn't born yet, which is a different story altogether. But so I've been raising my two kids with the memories of their father as part of their lives. And I've been, from my own personal experience, been doing this for and now hooray, 10 years, guys. I just hit the 10-year mark. Woohoo! Like, this is ridiculous. But my kids have been growing up with a father and they're thriving, guys. And you are too. And I'm gonna we're gonna share with you how you can do this no matter what age they are. Okay, guys? Okay, so really quick, as a grounding moment, I want you to explain again, this is never about moving on. Never about moving on. You can't fix grief, you walk with it. You move forward, making sure that your child knows that their father is still part of their story. So just really quick as we go through, as we're going through, I would love you to put on in the chat right now, if there's one thing that you wished their father knew about them, something that if you're going to say that one thing, this is what I need you to know about your dad, I would love you to put in the chat what that would be. Okay. And we'll start that as your first message and your first idea. Okay, so before we go even into anything when it comes down to helping your kids, the reason why I want to bring this up first is we have to look at you. Okay, you are going through your own grief. I don't care where you are, whether you've just started grieving, whether it's been 10 years like me, you are still grieving in your own way. And we have to acknowledge that as we're talking about the members of their father, because it's not just our husband. It's not just their husband. Oh my God, I'm messing this up. It's not just their father that we are grieving, that they're helping them grieve. It's our husband. Right, it's our husband that we're grieving, and that's why it's a dual role that we have to play here, and we have to acknowledge that first. We have to make sure we are on solid footing, so when we're talking about there to our kids, we're okay. And this can be anticipated triggers because we're going to be talking with dad right now. We're going to some place that reminds you of him. This could be unexpected triggers where all of a sudden your kid comes up with a question and you don't know how to respond. You're like, oh my God. And this could come up other ways where for me, my kids are getting older. Oh, no problem. If whatever, kids. If your kids move in, if your kids come into the screen, it's fine, right? This is our life. This is what we do. Like everybody here knows this. I want to make sure they understand that too. Again, talking too fast, guys. Kick me under the table. If my kid's getting older now, so he's beginning to look a lot like his father. And I was not expecting it to actually affect me as much as I did. He's still him, right? And he has still parts of me, but there's still little triggers. that will come up that you can, and this is I'm going to show you some short-term ways to be able to deal with this. And just be aware though, too, as you go through this, it's not just them, it's you. So short-term ways, there are a lot of different things we can do to do with this. There is these are physical, let me get my thing. So there is physical and there's emotional, and there's mental. And I'm just going to do some really quick things right you to help you right now. Physical grounding is the idea of you take your body and you actually use it to ground yourself into where you are right now. Really quick things you can do. You can do the five things. So if you all of a sudden start disassociating, and the reason why you start doing this is that really when you are going through a traumatic experience, because your heart and your mind split apart and you're trying to get that back together, you're also going through something called parallel lives. And what that is, the idea of you have one foot in the present, but you also have one foot in the past. So this moment right here, you are living. But as you're going to go through different memory triggers, you're going to go, oh my God, that reminds me of my husband and we did this. Again, these could be good or bad moments. And eventually, it's kind of both grief and love at the same time. But you're going to be having those parallel lives. So to ground yourself into this moment is very important. The five things is the idea is that you can look around, sit down, look, see, okay, what are five things I can see? And you really kind of get detailed on that. Like I can see right now a plant in front of me, and the plant is striped, so it has green on it. And in the green is also white stripes. It's on my table. Okay, and I keep going through all these different five things that I see. Then you go through what can I feel? What can I feel underneath me? So my chair, I can feel how nice and solid it is underneath me. I can feel like my hair, I can feel how individually strands it is. And you go try to go through as many senses as you can until you ground yourself. Another really quick thing you can do, and this is what I have here. If you have something like a cold, you can't see it, it's a cold water. If you hold on to some cold liquid or even some hot liquid, that can be instantaneous trigger. So if you have to, if your kids are going through talking to you about something and you're not expecting it, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, take a moment, just breathe before you go into anything. And those are some physical aspects you can do. There are other aspects as well. I don't want to go too much into them because that's a whole entire conversation on its own. But I just wanted to bring up that this is something that you're going to have to be aware of. If you can in the chat, I would love you to explain, tell me if there's something that has happened to you that you can say that this has worked for you in that moment, whether it be physical, whether it be emotional, whether it be even same. I mean, I want to say this too. If you something happens and you're like, okay, well, I was not expecting this, or I was expecting, if I was anticipatory grief, if something has happened to you and it's something, I'm talking too much, guys. Lois, stop me. Actually, I'm going to go to you. What is something that's helped you that you,
Yeah, so sure. One of the things that I've definitely used, I like that grounding. Mine was a shorter version because five things seemed like way too much for me.
right?
Was just breathing and then just like touching my body somewhere.
Mm,
Try not to wring my hands because that's just got like a different connotation, but just like breathe and just kind of be in the moment a little bit. It was a while before I could do remember what the five things were, or look around and that. But definitely breathing and just trying to take a moment, and definitely often having a coffee. That was,
yeah.
yeah, that's a good one. Or water, right? That's probably a better choice. But what do we got to do, right?
Leave the room, like just a change of environment can help. Mommy needs a timeout, as I used to always say. Let me say, Ashley, you're saying that your kids were 2 months, 18 months, and four when he died 2.5 years ago. So yeah, so you're definitely in your second year of the reality hits. Whoa, isn't that fun? Yeah, right. You're nodding. And you're saying here that you want him to know how easy it was for him to love and connect with people in the world, and that he had a steadfast grasp on what he prioritized in life. Oh, that's amazing. With our family being his top priority without question. And you would like him to know that the love that he had for me and the love that came out of the kids. You know what? I want to actually say that really quick too. The reason why it is triggering as well as we go through this is because we are going to go through all these milestones. where they are not here to celebrate with them. And that can be triggering, right? Sometimes they're anticipatory, where you know you're going to like the school concert, or for graduating, and that's tough. And then you're gonna as that I can't imagine. There's so many different things that come in and out, and it's going to change with them too as they grow. And I want you to know that it's okay not to know too. I mean, I want if you at any point they ask you a question or something comes up and you need that break and say, leave the room or whatever, mommy needs to find out. But you can also say, I can't, I can't answer that right now. I will talk, we can talk about everything else and we will get back to that, but mommy cannot deal with this, and we go forward from there. Um, Marie, you're saying I would want him to know that his dad has a tough childhood but persevered and he was so excited to have a son that shared his passion of sports with. Marie, I've been looking at you, watching you on your Facebook. He's so into his sports now, right? That is amazing. Like that's gonna make you so proud on so many different levels. Do you feel like his father's there when you're doing these?
All the time. All the time. He's just and he's not doing it for him. But he also, Ivan also knows that his dad loved watching him and being, and doing what he's doing. So that really kind of drives him at the same time.
Oh my God, that is awesome. That's amazing. You know what? I'm going to break protocol here. If anybody also wants to speak about something they want, like on camera, what they want about them to know, I want to get away from the triggers thing, but let's push more into the memories. Ashley, did you want to come on, or Val, or Rachel? Oh my God, Val, you're saying 7 and 6 years old when their son is starting secondary school, right? That's different sometimes right there. My kids, right? You guys know who are part of the Phoenix group. My kid is going to high school next year, and that's like a huge milestone right now. I wish his father was here to help him with that. Not that his father was very good academically, but that's good too because his neither is him, right? And he needs to know that it's okay. He's going to thrive anyway. All right, so I'm going to stop talking. Anybody who wants to come on, feel
I
free to put
I
yourself on.
will. I also really identified with what you said, Marie, because it's the same thing that my husband was I have two stepdaughters as well. So there's five of them altogether. My older two are 11 and 15. And Josh was so excited to have a boy. We had my oldest is a boy and our youngest is a boy. So he was just so excited to do the sports thing and share his love of basketball, which my oldest is like obsessed with it. And it's hard, but it's awesome, but it's also just like so emotional to realize that he doesn't have my son doesn't have his dad to like coach him through it. And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying, but and Josh never got to see him. Love it. He never even got to see him play. So that's tough, but
Yeah, that sucks for sure. I know when the first time I was like, my daughter was going to school because like she was so little, like all of these things were without him. And I was like, what? I have to be the one that teaches her to throw a ball and do this stuff. And I mean, I got used to it and I just jump in or I outsource as much as I can. But yeah, I was surprised at how emotional every different thing was. I was like, okay, I need some strategies for this because every single thing is like, oh my gosh. And then especially how the last couple of years as we wrapped up elementary school and grade 8 graduation and then we started high school and all of that. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I would like him to know for sure.
Mhm.
Can you see me okay?
You can.
Yep.
Can you hear me? Yeah, no, well, I would love I would love Pablo to know what a little great drawer his son has turned out to be because he was only 11 months when he passed. So my son is like he's such a good drawer. He's absolutely amazing. He draws the Titanic, draws all these like really detailed things, and I would love him to be able to see that. And then my other son is loves technology. He is so good at computers, and Pablo was amazing at computers too. So and the intelligence, like my eldest is super intelligent, and my husband was too. So it's hard for me now when it comes to technology because my 10-year-old probably knows more than I do. And he has like when he's trying to show me stuff, I would love someone else to be there to show him all the mechanical sides. But his father-in-law comes over every year, and I always try and do some kind of like technical thing. Like the last time he came over, they built a robot together, and because he's an engineer, so I try and keep that little connection up. But as you know, it's quite hard. So I've got the architect that's like his dad, and the intelligence and the technology. So
Also, that's a great way to do that with the doing things that are related. I do that with my daughter and her and my in-laws a bit. Um,
I love that, Marie. Rachel, sorry. Yeah, Rachel, Jen, Jamie, I do want to recognize the fact that you've jumped in here too, but either of any of you want to jump in, please do before I go to the next point. Quiet, right. Awesome. Okay, guys, thank you. All right, let's dive in. Lois, would you mind please doing your thing?
sure.
I can. This section is about how do our parenting styles affect our grief experience. I have to say, this is all from my own personal experience and interacting with other moms. Um, so we were both 35. I just had my baby when he got sick and then when he passed. So she was really little, and we didn't have a lot of time of parenting together. And obviously, the early stuff was severely impacted by the illness because parents came in shifts. We were lucky both families came. And then I had to go back to school. I was working as an actor, but I couldn't manage my day job and my acting and my family. So I put the acting on hold and I went back into my day job in IT, which I'm still working in, which was a gift, though I did not see it the days that I was crying my way to work every day, right? Going, why are all my hopes and dreams dead? But so, like, the whole getting into parenting, I was just getting my groove, and I knew we definitely had some differences, Paul and I, but I wasn't confident in my own style yet. So I think even if you are, that those things can happen and affect how you grieve. So I'm not going to go into technical styles or anything like that, but I'll just use a couple of examples. Like Paul was probably definitely more strict than I was, or well, I probably was more strict and more particular, but as they folded, I ended up taking a lot of shortcuts and being a lot more what I felt was slack, because that's how I needed it to do, right? She'd go to school or daycare from 7:30 to 6:30. Like if I put her to bed at 8 o'clock, I'd never see her. So we had a later bedtime and I just had to adapt things for us. All the hot topics for parents. Did you breastfeed? Do you co-sleep? Like all those other kinds of things related to the age of the kids is a hot topic anyway, but it felt like it was an extra hot topic when I had to make all those decisions on my own. Um, and so one of the things we wanted to talk about today was to just think about your parenting style and how it's changed since grief. And then what was it like before? What was it like during your loss if you had an illness? And then what have you done now and has that evolved? Because Sarah and I were talking about that, I was like, yeah, definitely like things I said I would never do, now I do, right? And things, my best friend, we didn't know that we were very different styles of parents. It became very evident early on when just like the sleep schedule and would you co-sleep and all of that. But I was on my own, right? So at one point, when she's learning to be trained to sleep alone in her bed, I have so much anxiety about having to sleep with my ear to the ground. I can't sleep. So I let her sleep with me because I could just put my hand out. I could feel that she was still breathing and I could go back to sleep. And that worked for me. It did not work for my girlfriend. She had a husband and another kid and a bunch of stuff. So different kind of life, right? But, you're always chit-chatting about stuff. And sometimes she would be like, you should do this. And I'd be like, okay, well, I'll give it a try if I was complaining about something. But when I found my widow people, it was so much better because at least those conversations were on the same plane. Whereas in a normal life, or some people call them muggles, like it's very tough to like have those conversations without sometimes there being judgment in there. So I definitely had to be okay with being okay that my style changed and I got to know myself different because clearly I wasn't working in the same job anymore. The house and the plan that I had, and I'm a very plan oriented person, was completely off the rails. I was trying to build a new plan. So just trying to be okay with that. And my big thing that I learned through lots of different things along the way, some therapy, some resources, whatever, was just my best is good enough today. If they're eating, they're fed, they're clean, they're sleeping a bit, they're going to school, like my job
Yeah.
is done. Like enough. It's done enough. And then I was joking with Sarah that my I always say you broke it, you bought it. Like, and that there's nothing that time and money can't solve later in therapy. So like these things that seemed so big to me, or like I felt like they weren't so great, really they weren't a crisis in the in the big scheme of things. In the moment it felt like a lot because of the loss, but it evolved. Um, the other thing I think that's been really important for sure, finding your people, right? And knowing that you may be different, or that I was different than my best friend, and that we weren't going to be able to maybe get into those deep parenting conversations. I had to find someone else to do that, and that we could just have more surfacey conversations around that. I also talk a bit of what worked for me. This is just me, but I had to build a village, and that looks different for everybody. But I had to outsource a lot of things, right? Like daycare, that became a really important thing. Extra daycare hours so I could get groceries, or, whatever that was. And because working was a necessity and I had to build up a new career pretty quickly. So, dig in and make it like it was tough, but it's doable one day at a time, right? Um, and I really had to learn not to compare myself to others, because some people, didn't have the same kind of experience. They had more parenting experience, or to just know that my best is good enough. I'm doing my best. I can take all the shortcuts and just get through one day at a time. I think one day at a time was probably one of the things that really was the most effective early on. Um, and then being okay that things change. Like things changed way more than I thought they would, like year to year with the kids, because she would like two is different than three, is different than four, than five and six. And so the hard times, they'll pass too. And then the good things, we'll talk about this later, but I couldn't remember anything. So I got in the habit early on of just taking pictures of everything. So then I could go back and remember it later, because I'm so in the grind of eat, sleep, poop, repeat. Like there's no time for anything else. Um, so that's kind of how I adapted my parenting style. And then also eventually started to have some like parenting goals for myself of like, oh, I'd like to be not so stressed out, and I'd like to make sure we're not eating out all the time, and a few things like that. And then self-care is always like super important. This was also a controversial one with some mommy friends, because self-care for me was getting a babysitter and going out, and it was really expensive. But I did it because I needed a break. Like if you had a partner, they'd be here and they'd be taking some of the slack, right? So finding ways to do that was super important. We'll get into memories and stuff. My experience with memories with my daughter when she was super little, we had them way early on. And then there were some ways to kind of help keep them going. But the whole parenting style is just, it's adaptable. Being adaptable and flexible is probably one of the things that really kind of helped me get through the roughest times. And I know you guys know when I say rough, like that what that rough feel is. And know that not that time changed things for me too. And as the kid grew, like some things definitely got easier when they could participate more in what was happening. Though it's kind of nice when they're little and you just put them somewhere. They stay where you put them, but that's always changing too. So yeah. So parenting styles, it's pretty it wasn't something I ever thought about till I hit a problem. But now I think about that when I'm faced with decisions and choices and how I want to do things, because it'll usually guide me. Like, this is what I think Paul would have did. this is what I think I would have used to want to do. And oh, this, based on where I am now, this is how I'm going to attack today's situation. So, yeah.
Just one point I wanted to bring to that. I was
Yeah.
talking to somebody about recent, I might have been you, I think it might have been you actually, how there's almost a sense of freedom, almost too. That's like a double-edged sword. Like on one hand, you have all these responsibilities, and there is such a thing as the decision fatigue because it's just you taking care of everybody else. I'm like, where do you find time for these? Like, why is this me just making all these decisions? Like you're supposed to be there too, but there's also a freedom to it, right? Because I don't have to ask anybody else about what I'm going to do. Like the decision is my decision, and this is what we're going to do. And having that confidence to do it is tough because, but as you said, Jen, if you make a mistake or something goes wrong, guess what you can do? You can fix it. You can change. You can adapt, right? If this is working, change it, right? And you have that ability and that self-confidence to be able to do that. And that's eventually you'll get there. We're all here for you guys. This is part of your community. Actually, I did see your message. We will get back into the community later on. But right here, this is the kind of stuff we do, right? This is the more we're talking about this, the more that we find our communities. So I want to get back onto what we were talking about because I know we have a hard stop. I know Marie, you're going out about 20 minutes, so I'm going to try to get some more in here. Okay, what I wanted to dive into a couple things here before we go any further. And this is to make sure that you guys know why we are doing this, why memory is so important. There's three things I want to talk about here. One of them is about understanding childhood memory. I'm going to bust some kind of myths for you and bring up some reality. I'm going to explain the idea of concept of planting memory seeds, which is how to share stories in a way that feels natural, even if they don't seem to stick yet. And I want to also address some questions that can emerge over time, which is preparing for shifts in how they process their father's grief. The key point here, guys, is that memories aren't just what they recall, it's what you help them create. And this is why it's important that this affects every age group. Okay, they're not about what they recall, it's what you can help cultivate and become organic. And I think everybody here can have an experience about that they might want to say. So I'm curious, so before we go any further, I'd love you to put down in the comments or even just drop a heart if you've ever wondered how much your child actually remembers. I'd love to hear that because that comes up quite often, especially for the young ones, but it can come and there's more people going, yay, more people. Put up in the comments if there's anything or if you've ever wondered how much your child actually remembers. And this can go from, again, whether you're tiny, 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 or whether they're older. Like, what do they remember? So I want to dive into that, which is the myth, let's talk about some myths. There's two of them that kind of combine together. One of them is the myth that if a child is under 5 when their father passed or their mother passed away, that they're not gonna remember anything. And that's a huge problem. Like, oh my God, they're gonna grow up without a father in their life. They're not gonna remember anything. They're losing that connection, right? There is that fear of that, but that's a myth. Okay. The other myth, which is tied into this, is that older children have a better ability to recall memories of their father than younger kids. Again, not necessarily. Okay. This is not necessarily. I don't want you to think this is a bad thing, though. This is not a bad thing. What it means is that it levels the playing field. And this is going to sound kind of weird, but it does because older children may not remember much either. Memory's patchy. Even like you can think about yourself, you're not going to remember everything either. Okay. Memory is malleable. And we're going to talk more about in a second about why memory is malleable and why you can help use that to your advantage. But before we get into that, I want the reason why is because there's the way that our brains work, right? There's the primal brain at the very root, the instinctual, right? Let's just breathe and let's just make sure we're breathing. Let's make sure like we're eating, we're sleeping. This is all back there. And when you go through trauma, sometimes that's the only things that you can deal with. Am I okay? Are the kids eating? That's what got out of bed in the morning. Are the kids okay? After that, there's the cortex. And then there's the prefrontal cortex. And the way memory works is that, and you as you go through life, you're going to have these experiences that are going to lodge into your long-term memory. But your short-term memory is always going to be like a fishbowl in a sense, right? It's picking up new information all the time, and it's trying to figure out how to live in that moment. The things that are important to them that are going to stick goes into the cortex, right? Goes back further back. What's this mean? You can use that to your advantage because this is going to happen whether you're younger or whether you're older. Those kids who are younger than 5, they still have those memories back there. They're going to still have moments that they're going to remember.
Yeah.
As you're
Hey,
older,
can I jump in with oh, go.
absolutely, please do.
So just because I know that the young kid piece, because we talked about this example that
Mhm.
people are like, oh, they're not going to remember anything. She was so little. Briar was 18 months when he died. 8 months later, we're reading a counting book, and it's like 8, blah, 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 9 oranges. And she's like, I eat oranges with daddy. She's like 2.5. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I don't eat oranges. I don't like them. So we move on. And I call my mom and I'm like, she just said this. She's like, yeah, when you went back to work, we always have oranges, which they do. And we would, peel one and give it to Paul and he would give it to her. And I was like, 2.5. Now, if I have my time back, if you have littles, I would have recorded more conversations around that because at that time it was a natural memory, but now she doesn't remember it. But early on, don't be closed off to the idea that they don't have them because they most definitely, or at least I believe they most definitely do. So be open to that and the signs of things. And then find some ways to document and record it as you go through because you'll be in that busy time with little ones. And then it's hard to, think about doing that at the time. But later, that could be a memory you cultivate for have them remember.
Yes, no, absolutely. And we were talking earlier too. There's a lot of things that my son will come up and he'll say, "Oh, Dad's like." He said something recently but it was just his father. It was like this father tapped into his brain and he was speaking him, but just in his voice. And I wouldn't have thought that. Again, the kid was 2.5, right? But he does feel that. And it's interesting because even my daughter, she doesn't have organic memories of him because she wasn't born yet, but because I keep talking about her, she will remember things that I told her, and she's integrated it into her life. So it worked both for younger kids. For older kids too, like you're gonna find that as you go through things, they're gonna remember things that they didn't even realize they remember. They didn't realize they knew until it comes up. That's just the way brains work, though. We can't hang on to all the memories all the time. We would go freaking mad. Like, can you imagine? I'm 47 years old. If I remember everything, but you're going to have, and so that's what goes into the next part, which is the malleability of memory. Okay. It's malleable and you can use that to advantage. And whether your kid is young or a teen, you can help instill these memories until they feel natural and organic to them. And again, this happens no matter where they are in their life. The more you talk about it, the more you normalize their grief, you normalize their father, they're going to become memories as part of their everyday life. And I think that's the key takeaway, right? As you're going through this, you are creating these memories. They're not even creating, we're not brainwashing. You're helping to enforce that memories are okay and to create that safe space that when they come to a corner and they go around it like, oh my God, I forgot. Like me and Dad were playing ball back over there. How did I forget that? Or like again, it comes to anybody. It comes to me, right? We're going to be walking down the street, and the same thing's going to happen to me. Like, oh my God, Mom and Dad, before you guys were born, we did this, right? And even though they weren't even there for it, they're going to remember that. The more you talk about it, it becomes reality, right? It becomes part of them. And I'm going to explain how that works. And you can even, if you want to break down how to create those situations, psychologically, the way this works in layman's terms is that the event happens, okay? You experience something and it gets stored as a memory. Forgetting occurs. So over time, the details of the memory fade and it feels like you've just lost it, but it doesn't mean the memory is gone. It's just hidden. Then you're going to have a cue. This triggers the memory. Okay. Something happens. It could be a smell. Oh my goodness. Smells are powerful, right? A sound, music, All of us have some kind of music or soundtrack that will get us, right? Or a familiar situation. And that reminds you of the memory. And that trigger unlocks the memory, which makes it accessible again. And that the next step is that memory recall, which is once the memory is triggered, it feels like it's suddenly coming back. And even though you haven't thought about it in years. So the key takeaway I want you to know is that memories are not often they're not gone, they're just out of reach. And with the right cues, they can resurface even after long periods of forgetting. You're gonna find this with your own memories. And when you do, and when and you, I want to take the opportunity to share these moments with your children. And when your children feel that they need you because you've already opened that conversation, you've already created that safe space, they're gonna not gonna second guess whether I can tell you this, mom. I mean, this is crazy. I just remember this about my dad. Is this normal? Because you're already doing that, it creates that safe space. And I'd love to hear about that. I mean, before hearing this from you guys, what did you think about childhood memory? How did you think your child processes this? Do you believe that it's something that can be fixed? Do you think it's something that can be shaped? Like how, I would love to know what your thoughts were about memory, about how your kids process it in the chat. Or actually, if anybody wants to jump on, let's do that too. Let's open up the floor.
And I want to just add something about the Facebook memories in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
You can turn them off if they're too much for you in your Facebook settings. If Facebook memories are too much for you, you can turn them off and then turn them back on. That came up in with some friends not long ago. But yeah, it's nice for some of the stuff I had recorded too.
I didn't realize that. That's actually really good to know.
Yeah.
Oh, memories. Oh, talking about Facebook. If I want to talk about remember your Facebook, if your husband is around, like, did he have a Facebook like page, or a profile? You can even use that to your advantage. If we're talking about like bringing memories up, show your kids what your father posted. That way they get to see things through their eyes, right? They get to see what their father. So instead of you just saying, "Oh, your father loved this," they can look at the Facebook page. This is obviously by my. I will tell my son again and again how much his father loved airplanes. But if I show him his pictures, that his father just like had billions of shots of the same freaking airplane, which I didn't really care about. But this is through his father's eyes, right? And maybe he'll catch on to something like that. I mean, to make it real. And as a complete aside, if you ever need help with like actually downloading those guys, you can reach out to me because those are your memories. They're not Facebook's. So I want to make sure that you actually know how to grab those as well as a complete aside. Ashley, I do want to say here too, I see that you wonder all the time. All of my friends or my kids were very young. I think my 7-year-old is the only one that has any memories of him because he got sick 8 months before he died and spent most of the 8 months hospitalized during COVID. Oh my goodness, COVID is itself as its own kind of niche in itself for widowhood, right? So the kids barely got to see him in the hospital. My youngest was 8 weeks old. There aren't memories, and he only has photos of him as he has a very little baby with his dad who is fatally ill. I'm not sure how to navigate that as they get older. Oh, good questions. Good point. Oh my God. Okay. First of all, before I say anything, I do want to recognize the fact that COVID, I mean, everybody has their own grief story. Everybody has their own grief journey. And you're going to find, I mean, again, there's typical things people will happen. You can kind of group them. Like there's suicide, there's unexpected, there's cancer, there's complicated situations. And definitely COVID is a subgroup all in itself. And I do want to recognize that because of the isolation is a whole bunch of different things on top of that. And I don't think it's actually, I'm not even sure if it's part of literature yet for trauma stuff. It should be because, oh my God.
Getting there.
Yeah, right? I mean, I think navigating grief and talking about this kind of stuff is getting there too. Hence, again, thank you for being here because of that. Pictures, Ashley, they are so needed and they are so triggering, good and bad for different reasons. I'm curious, actually, do you mind going online? I'd love to hear more about what you're worried about how to navigate. I want to dive into that a bit more.
So I only have like my kids right now are 3, 4, and 7. And my 3 and 4 year old, so my middle, my daughter, she's 4, and she was 8 months old when Josh got sick, and it was like a mystery illness. So I feel like the whole way the trauma happened was also different because we didn't know what was going on. He became totally paralyzed within 6 weeks, and he was completely healthy before that, and we still don't know what the hell happened. And his body just shut down. He went into liver failure, kidney failure. So I didn't know that I was working with limited time. And he was such an optimist. He just thought, we're going to do what the doctors say, I'm going to be fine and walk out of here, And obviously that never happened. But at the time after the youngest was born, I wanted to get like newborn photos done in the hospital. And I probably could have, but I was like, we didn't know he was going to die. So the urgency wasn't there. So anyways, I have a few pictures with my youngest with him. Like I have a bunch, but Josh was really ill in them all, which is okay. I've told my whole extended family I'm going to have these pictures in my house. Like I understand if you guys don't want to put pictures of Josh when he was this sick in your house, but I feel like we have to normalize it because they're the only pictures I have with my youngest one. And but my youngest will find pictures of my oldest son with dad when he was younger, and he's like, that's me and daddy, but like it's not, because he was never that old with daddy. And so I just don't know. Like I know those questions are going to come up. And another thing I've like been surprised about is that you're having to like kind of deal with the grieving process with the kids throughout every stage of their life, and like every like time they're able to understand something a little bit deeper, then they have more questions. So like my younger two, they talk about it a lot, but like my middle daughter is now starting to kind of understand that this is like a big thing. Like, and it's been 2.5 years, so and she'll start crying and say like, why does Charlotte and Ava Lee, her friends at school, why do they have daddies and I don't? And then the younger one who, he's not quite there yet, and he's sitting right there. Well, it's just like hard. Like I have no idea how to make any of that better or more normal. I also don't want them to be raised from like a victim point of view or like you know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
um,
There's a lot of there we can unpack for very, very many different reasons. You hit so many points that resonated with me. I'm curious whether anybody else here resonated with that too, because I don't want to be the only one speaking to. I want to try to open this up a little bit. Is anybody here resonate with what Ashley is saying and want to be able to speak to it?
When I told my daughter that her dad died, the first thing she said, it's not fair. You still have a dad. And it's not. It's not fair. And we can't make it fair for them. We can just love them.
I do want to say that you don't have to feel that your kids are going to be black sheeps because of this. Okay.
My daughter's thriving now in school, absolutely thriving, despite the fact that she doesn't have a dad. And she's doing things that he would absolutely love. She's doing track, she's doing tennis. He would love to do those things with her. And I don't know if she picked them because of some genetics or if she's doing it because she knows her dad would have loved it or if it's just what her style is. But I mean, we're 5 years out now almost, and she is thriving. She really is. She's a straight A student. She wants to go to college. She has career goals. Um, I'm sure if I asked her, she'd still say it's not fair that I have a dad and she doesn't. But I think sometimes she feels like a black sheep. She definitely, I think, she has a friend who lost her mom last year, and that girl has failed out of school and switched to a different school and is really struggling. And she hasn't said it, but I think she's kind of looked at me and been like, "Thanks for being there for me, mom, and helping me through this because I'm clearly doing better than my other friend." And so it's she recognizes how strong we are as a family. And um, like my son just doesn't want to tell anyone he doesn't have a dad. He's like, they don't need to know. It doesn't matter. It's not like if they come here and then they're like, oh, I haven't met your dad. Oh yeah, he's dead. Don't worry about it. We got everything covered. So yeah, it's not a I mean, my kids have plenty of other things to be black sheep. They're in school, they were homeschooled, it's like, oh, you're the weird homeschool kid. Yeah, and they don't have a dad, so whatever. But yeah, it's not fair. There's no part of this that will ever be fair, but we'll still be okay.
Yeah, and their dad's still here,
Yeah.
right? Like even though he's not physically here, he is part of them. I mean, look at them. They didn't just pop out of nowhere, right? They're gonna have memories of him. I would love to hear if anybody I want to go back to that photo thing. So sorry, thank you, Jen. Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh my God. I love that. I mean, I love the fact you can be so vulnerable and know that this is okay for you to talk because of that. But I want to go back to the photos because that does ring a bell, I think, for a lot of people. I think one of the things we were talking about in our Phoenix group, which we get together monthly, is how sometimes you can find, and was it one of our members, if she wants to talk about it, was talking about how her daughter mentioned something about a photo and how it reminded her. Her daughter was really young when, actually, she's young now. She wasn't even around when her father passed. I'm sorry, Ursula, I'm putting you on the spot. Did you want to talk about this at all? If you don't, that's cool too. You can.
Turn off my camera because of my internet, so I'm going to turn it off, okay?
Okay.
Because I won't be able to hear you guys if I turn it
Yeah,
on.
no problem.
Just so you know. Okay, remind me. I
You're
don't.
talking about like when we're looking at a picture, you're showing a picture to your daughter about you and your husband.
Oh, yes. It was a video. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it
Okay.
was a picture and then a video. Yes. When we went to the most recent one was when we were at the beach, and she remembered a video and a picture that I showed to her when my husband and I went to the beach. She obviously wasn't there yet; she wasn't born, but she was able to relate it as something that she had done as well. She kind of made the connection, and yeah, she never met him, so it was interesting to see how she was able to make that connection as if she had gone to the beach with him. Yeah. That's one of several. It has happened several times with pictures with things that she does. I think it's been now 3 occasions where she relates something that she's doing, and she relates it to a picture that she has seen of me and him, but she wasn't around, but she still feels that she was part of it of that experience, I guess, because it's similar to what she's living, and she's only 3.5. Yeah.
There's a story that I heard when we went to Camp Widow, which I really was poignant for me, was that there is a spot where her and her husband had gone. They went camping and they went there, and it was just an amazing experience. They were there with the kids, and the kids were so young, so I don't think the kids really remembered all that much. But she was there with her husband, and they took a picture of where they were. And they weren't able to go back to get to that area again afterwards because he had passed away shortly thereafter. So, but she kept that picture and she talked to the kids about it as they grew. And then many years later, I think it was like a good close to a decade later, the daughter all of a sudden she texted her out of nowhere and sent her a picture. And it was a picture of her and her boyfriend that they'd gone to the same place that their mother had took the picture of her and her husband, and they'd gone there specifically to take a picture of them, her new boyfriend, to share with their mother. And I was like, oh my God, right? They're just little things that you can like. They're gonna photos are so magical and important, and and I was just saying to Marie, and I know she had to go, is that the Facebook memories is just to go back to Facebook again. I have a love-hate relationship with them because sometimes there's way for a lot of memories too, though, right? You see a memory and it triggers you. It's like, oh my God, that's amazing. I remember that. Oh my God, they're not here anymore. And then you get all that pain all at the same time, right? And that just the way it seems to work continuously. Eventually, those memories for you is they're gonna when you have a memory at first, it's just so overwhelming of that loss. You can't feel anything but pain to look at it. And that's why I was saying if you can turn off the Facebook memories at that point, please do. But when you eventually you're gonna get to that point where the memories are the first thing you get is a good feeling as opposed to a bad feeling. The good feeling comes first. And then it's the, oh, okay, he's not here yet. But that's okay. We're still here. We love him. That sucks, but let's keep going. Right. And does that make it? Yeah, I've seen nods. Does anybody that seems to resonate with them?
Can I jump in there? There's a couple things that we've been talking about. The Facebook memories for sure. Like, and I memorialized Paul's, and there's a lot of stuff from, he didn't get to tell his story from his perspective long enough, right? So there's a little glimpse of that there, which is great. I want to go back to something about the photos while they're ill, because a lot of, like, I don't have very many pictures with Briar and Paul. And it was just my birthday recently, and my dad put in a picture of all of us, and he's really sick. And I thought about it, and I haven't done it yet. But somebody suggested I could Photoshop the photos a little bit because of the brain cancer, his eyes were going in different directions, and I find it really distressing to look at. And so, like, I know that's part of the story, but it's a little bit, and I haven't done it yet. But I wanted to mention it because, my friend's like, we could just tweak that one little thing if that would make it a nicer photo for you guys, because there's so few photos. So that was something I was thinking about. So I just wanted to mention that because there's that. And then also, we had a good bit of time in the hospital as well. And I think if I had my time back, and maybe it's not too late to do this, the memories and the pictures from that time period, like, they happened during a specific time. So I could pull out pictures of the clothes, the music, what were we doing on the way to and from the hospital, right? I'm sure there's some music from that time period and some Tim Hortons coffee and some other things that I could use to flesh out some good things to associate with those memories to make them a little bit fuller, instead of just yeah, you're lying on the hospital bed with your dad when you went in for whatever. Um, and then the other thing about memories for that too was that I remember right after he died, I would look at our wedding picture and I couldn't remember what that felt like. The that time, that feeling with the memory. And then that changed with time. So for those who are like new in early grief, and it took longer than I thought it would, like probably 3 to 4 years before I really could go, oh, I could get reconnected to that nice feeling tied to the pictures, because I guess there's just so much trauma and grief tied to it. But that's what stood out for me. It was about that it changes over time, and that thing about the cues. Yeah, for everything that you have that you're trying to cultivate, cues and timing and other things happening would probably be a good way to, like, bring those together for yourself. And if I had my time back, I would have did some of that a little bit earlier.
I'm loving this. All right. I want to actually, another point that you brought up is how it changes, right? There's the evolution of memory, how your kids are growing. They are going to be having different questions. They're going to have different traits. They're going to have, just because as they understand life, they're going to, and their a understanding of their reality changes. And their relationship with their father will also change and grow as well. So, very briefly, I keep saying this, I'm never brief. Kids will grieve differently than we expect because they're just different people. And how they grieve usually, again, typically is within different age groups. Okay. And so if we break it down, the younger ones are going to be able to flip back and forth between grief and being happy really easily. Like if they'll be walking down, like they'll play with the puddle, and then they'll all of a sudden they're crying or upset because of daddy was because of something. They don't even know, they can't express it, and they'll be happy again. They'll go back and forth and back and forth, and then this gets more complicated as they get older because they start recognizing what death is. They start realizing it's going to affect them. They have more questions. Eventually, you're going to get into like preteen and teen where they start questioning life, and psychological, philosophical ideas, and it's funny because people got when they think about kids, they're always like they start earlier, like a 2-year-old. Oh, and you think, oh, look at the temper tantrum. It's going to get better, right? And as you get older, like yes and no, it's different. It changes, right? It becomes more complicated. And I think it's the same thing you can be saying for grief. So in grief in general, it's no, I can't say in general, as grief changes, your child is going to go back and forth as they develop their understanding and normalization of how grief affects them itself. Memory is also malleable. It's not static. It's this living thing. So your child's understanding of their father will grow and evolve as they go through time. They're going to ask questions when they're older that they didn't ask when they were younger, right? And they're going to and even later on too, if they're older, they might ask things that you thought they were going to ask when they're 5, and all of a sudden they're 15 and you're asking them. I can't have an example off the top of my head right now, but these questions will change and their emotional connection will deepen as they get older. Oh, I just thought of one right now. Again, as they get older right now, my son is at that point where he doesn't know how like he's starting to mature. He's starting to get like the facial hair, right? And I tell him, your father was patchy. Like he had like little things here on his right. He doesn't know this, right? Because he hasn't seen this. But I'll show him, but he'll ask about it. So I'm like, okay, how do I get that memory? I get pictures. I'll show you pictures of what so now we can kind of see it on him and it integrates it. It integrates it as part of his life. I have dad here, right? Dad gave me this. Mom didn't give me this. Dad does. And they're going to have that. This is going to come up routinely, which means that you be able to that you have to know that as they change and as they have these memories, it's going to you have to keep that memory door open for them to be able to have these shared, to be able to have these memories of them. I want you to take the lead. I let them take the lead. Like, don't ever feel that you have to tell them everything about their father now. They can't deal with that. They're gonna don't want to know, right? It's almost like if you're a teacher in Charlie Brown and you tell them all this thing, they're like, blah, 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 blah. They don't care, right? Oh, mom's telling me memories. I don't care, blah, blah, which is fine too. If you keep planting those seeds, eventually some are going to stick. And then later on, you're going to realize, oh, wait, they were listening. This actually made a difference. They heard these questions. My daughter did this recently too for me. Oh, I was telling her that her dad, that Michael and I, we both changed our last names when we got married. And because we just wanted a fresh start, it was just us. So, which is traumatic when he died. Then, well, there's that family we're supposed to have together. Now we don't have it, but the kids now have our last name is Gallagher. They all change. I've never changed it back. That's what it is. But she's like, "Oh, your last name was Lukoweski before." Like, how do you remember that? Like, why would you remember that? And this is going to come up often. I'm curious. What is a memory that you've discovered or that they've said to you, which you didn't expect them to say? Is there a question that they've asked you that has kind of like, oh, wait, that reminds me of something. How do I deal with this? Has anybody gone through that they'd like to share? Silence. Which means either nobody has experienced this, which I highly doubt, or people are just quiet, which is absolutely fine too. Okay, so we've gone into that. I would love to be able to open up the door here to say, I would love to hear from you guys about your experiences. So I'd like to be able to go around and I'm going to give you the opportunity. I'm going to see, this is what I usually do in our groups too. I'm going to go around And as we go around, I'm going to give you the opportunity from right to left as I see you. So I can see Lois, Rachel, Ashley, Jamie, Mom iPhone. I'm not sure who that is. Val, Ursel, and Jennifer. And Jennifer Jimerson. Am I saying that right? Jimerson, is that right? All right. And then other Jen. I'm going to go around. I'm going to give you the opportunity to speak. And what I would love you to do is to say hello really quickly, who you are, how long you've been grieving, your kids' ages, and then anything you want to share about what you've experienced about sharing memories. And this could be how you deal with like Christmas, how you deal with milestones, with their birthdays. I'd love to know about how you deal with their memories on a naturalized way, things that come up like through a normal day to day. If you want to throw out something that we can just use, because everybody here has ideas and have done things, but I know I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over again. Right. I don't want to keep, I mean, some things would be nice. Like obviously Christmas, we're going to do a particular thing every time. Like we're going to put up that stocking of his all the time, you know, but there are other things that come up too, which we celebrate or we celebrate his memory in a way that nobody else has. So I'd love to open up the opportunity to do that. And I don't want it to be, so I'm just me and I'm just talking the whole entire time. Um, so Lois, I'd love to go first. Let's hear from you again. Like how old your kids were. We know how long you've been grieving for, but what is something that you want to share?
So we're gonna hit 15 years this year, and Briar is 16, and she's gonna learn to drive any minute. Um, I think we didn't really touch on this too much, but humor has been one of the things that's really got me through, right? As she got a little bit older and into school and stuff, um, definitely all the supports like grief therapy for her really helped. But we, became the family with the dead dad jokes. So now we're at a point where we're like, this wasn't early on, guys. So just keep that in mind. But like hashtag dead dad, right? And there's pages on Instagram and stuff she follows for stuff like this. And when something happens and we're different, going back to that black sheep or we're weird or whatever, I think when they say new normal, and I hated that for a long time, our new normal is that this is part of our life, right? Paul's here, there's pictures, he's dead. We talk about him, we love him, we're moving on and forward in these different ways we can. And we laugh about it sometimes because, we didn't laugh the first time they learned Google at school and she's the only kid who shows up in an obituary. Or, there's a lot of things you're not laughing about, but there's a lot of funny things. So we always do a lot of ice cream because he loved ice cream. And on the anniversary of one of the years, we got a cake and then we didn't know what to say. So we put RIP on it, right? Like we do funny little things like that are like in jokes for us. And sometimes we have them out when we're with other people and we'll be like, ha ha, what can you say about that? Or what if they only knew how we have to deal with our life at home, right? Um, as a counteraction to the conversations of it's still not fair, right? It's not fair. I just had my birthday and my dad sent me the longest, biggest, beautiful birthday card, right? And I'm like, oh God, she will never have that. But, gratitude for the other things too. So I think humor and gratitude is great because she has four awesome grandparents. I only had one. So there's a balance off, right? And everybody's unique, which works out for us. So yeah, humor and gratitude. Make it funny.
Dark humor, I think, is the one thing that all widows, or for the most part, we have because that's how you deal, right?
Yep. If you're not laughing, you're crying.
Actually, that's like before we go. I know you have a hard stop at 2. But actually, because of that, I do want to guys say that she has an amazing repertoire. She has lots of stuff she's been doing, but one of the things that she's been working on is a book that is going to be coming out. It's called what is it? Fake It Till You Make It. So really quickly, and because I don't want you to lose that opportunity not to talk about it, you kind of talk about that too, right, in this book.
Yeah. So if anybody asks me how I did it, how I made it through those early years, I'm thinking about you guys with the little ones. I'm like, oh my God, I know how that feels, right? I used lots of little slogans and sayings to get me through hard times. And it was literally one day at a time, fake it till you make it. Like those kinds of sayings, as cheesy as they are, really got me through a lot of my days. And then so I did, I wrote a book about them and I talked about the little sayings I used and how I did it. And I didn't just do it, I had another traumatic event with a really close neighbor in my circle, part of my village that I had created to get through the loss of my husband. And my good friend died. And I was like, how am I going to get through this? And so as I was thinking about that, I started writing it down. And so, yeah, if anybody wants a copy of that, that's going to be available. And if anybody ever wants to talk about any of the things, you can always reach out to me on social media. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely put everything we're talking about. We do have a transcript. There's going to be replays available, and then we're going to give you resources and ways to reach out to us if you need to at the very end as well. We're going to do this later, but I wanted to make sure that I know you had the hard stop, but I didn't want you to lose the opportunity.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everybody move to your screen. Everybody moving around. So you know what I'm going to do? I am going to go through the where I have the participants because that's not moving. I forgot that the screens move. So I'm going to let you know, like right now I have Ashley, Ursel, Jamie, Jennifer, and Jennifer, then Jennifer Jimerson, then Rachel, and then Val. So I know I kind of switched up the order and I apologize. Just I forgot that I usually use a different platform. I'm not used to Zoom. So my apologies. So putting on the thought there, Ashley, but is there anything that you would like to share? Like you've already said already how old your kids are. You're more than welcome to reiterate and just tell us something about what you want to share for memories.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Lois, for saying that because I might go find you on Facebook because I feel like it's hard to find people that have done it, like the little kid thing. And I mean, me personally, I am feeling just like I'm drowning. And it didn't start, I'm like 2.5 years in and I was fine until, like 8 months ago, all of a sudden it just, but anyways, okay, so yeah, my kids are 3, 4, and 7, and then I have an 11 or she's actually going to be 12 soon, and 15-year-old stepdaughters, and their mom and I try to get them together still, like all the time, like regularly. So some of the things that we've done, we do a lot of them together, and for like big holidays, we go and decorate his grave and let all the kids pick stuff out. Like we go to the dollar store and just get a bunch of stuff. We decorate it. We also, he loved cherries and cherry pie. So we have cherry pie every year on his birthday. And yeah, I just try to, we do talk about him a lot, like through the days, which I try to, make sure that we're doing that, but yeah, that's all I have.
That's beautiful.
Thanks for sharing and totally reach out.
Okay.
That 3 and 4-year-old age, oh my God. I think that might have been some of the hardest.
Yeah.
Like I
And
feel
what
like
you were
when
saying
school
about like
started,
your parenting style, and these are all like things that I've been just trying to like come to terms with because I'm not at all the parent I used to be and that I thought I would be. And it's hard because it feels like I don't know, I don't have direction. I don't I don't know what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
No, absolutely. That's the solo parenting thing. I will hit this nail on the head until it drives into like, I don't know, the other end of the world. Solo parenting and single parenting is very different.
Yes.
Right. And then all of a sudden you're solo parenting, you don't get a break because you have to make all the decisions. You don't know what the hell you're doing.
Mhm.
What if I make a mistake? I don't want to damage my kids.
Yeah.
What other childhood trauma can I give them right now? They've
Yeah.
already gone through enough.
Right.
But I mean, there are resources. I mean, Lois has hers. There's the Kids Grieve Differently book that I have that I can share with you, which is very helpful. Anything that I've been doing I've been working with widows and solo parents and with women with their young kids, the older kids for over 6 years now. And there's a lot of different tips and tricks that I've found. And there's the one thing I'm thinking about, we can talk about offline, is that one of the video courses I have is called How to Raising Your Grieving Kids Right. And it brings up a whole bunch of different aspects, like how to find father figures, how to deal when they're too angry to ask for help, how to navigate the schoolyard. And then even for the little ones, like how do you navigate them just being kids and them going through, because that it is like between the terrible twos, there's the terrific threes, and then there's the effing fours.
Yeah, I
which
know.
are so hard to deal with.
Yeah.
And you can do this on your own. I mean, and if you have other kids, they're also demanding
Yeah, they're so demanding. Yeah.
levels, right? And it's just you.
What
Like,
was that book that you were talking about? I would love to read that book, the How to Raise Grieving Kids.
it's a video course. So I
a
can
video.
there's just so much, right? I think right now I'm up to 7 videos in it. So I can teach, I mean, I either sell them as a package or as individuals. It's a different plan, but we can talk offline for that too.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is solo parenting, widowed. You got both, right? There's 3 things that we all have to deal with, guys, and you know this, right? There is the widowhood, how to deal with being a widow. And I mean, I'm gonna stop talking about the administrative stuff. I mean, oh my God, that alone is like it's hard to go through. But how to deal with being a widow and the grief, and how do you go through your fog, and how do you start really realizing this reality, right? All those kind of things. There's a solo parenting, which is all that responsibility and making those decisions. It's also making sure your grieving kids are like they're okay, right? Their grief. And then there's like trying to figure out who the heck you are now, like your own new identity, because your old one died with them, right? It's you are who you are now is completely different. Those are 3 things we're dealing with. Those are 3 huge different things. I was when I was at Camp Widow, I mean, Lois, we only had like 2 or 3 different like breakout rooms about young widows with kids. Everything else there is like people who are older, that they're 65 or 60, and their kids are grown. They're like they've had their thing with their pet. They had their lives. They had someone else there. I can't relate with them. I mean, that's why we have these kind of things. I read a statistic recently saying apparently only 2% of all widows are young widows. That doesn't really
So
surprise me. Yeah,
I'm going to
absolutely.
jump
Go,
in
go,
there
go.
too, just because I'm going to have to go soon. I just want to give a big plug to Camp Widow and Soaring Spirits
Right.
International,
Yes,
or
yes,
Soaring
yes.
Spirits Canada. If you haven't looked into those resources, please do, or just reach out to me on Facebook and I can connect you. And maybe I can, if you let me, I'll put a plug in your group. Um, the You'll find a lot more young widows, and I think it's 47% of their population is actually under 50. And a lot of them have kids. So I think it depends on the camp you go to. Toronto camp is coming up in June, and then Houston in March, Seattle in April, um, Chicago in September, and Washington in December. So if anybody wants any info about that, like check out their websites and give it a look, and then reach out with any questions. But it was the place that I found to be able to meet up with the younger folks and meet other folks like us with the kids. Because I mean, I was 8 years out and I ended up in a room, and they break you up by time you're widowed. So I was with the 5+ seasoned widows. And then there was a whole bunch of people my age there with kids. And I was like, what? Um, because there can be a lot of things, but you might not find it at the right time. So that's why I wanted to just give a little plug to that, because if that's your jam to get into something in person, they also have a lot of online virtual groups, and they also have regional social groups that are where people get together to go for a drink or a dinner or whatever. And I have a group that meets in Oakville, Ontario twice a month. So if anybody's out that way, please feel free to reach out. And there's groups all over North America too. So if you're looking for some extra in person. So yeah, anyway, it's my
Yay.
alert
Honestly,
about that.
I wish, like, I just found you guys this year, and this is my 10th year of being a widow. And I swear to God, I'm like, I wish I had known about this like years ago. It's amazing. And there are other ones out there too, guys. Like I'm going to be putting
Yeah.
together a list of different resources that you can have. I mean, obviously you're going to have my resources, you're going to have Lewis's resources, but there's so many things out there that we've kind of gathered over the years that I wish we had known this beforehand. Right. And it's international. I mean, as much as possible, it's definitely North American. I know we have some people here from across the pond and from Caro and everywhere else as well. So I can't necessarily speak to those, but you're here. So maybe you can start your own little group wherever you are. Because I find that's the other thing that before you every I keep going off these tangents. The more we talk about this, guys, and the more we loud about it, the more you're going to realize I'm not the only one out there. Like, yeah, we're only 2% of like population or not 45% or whatever it is. But the more we talk about it, oh my God, they start cutting me out of nowhere, right? That's why I started doing this. I thought I was the only widow. And then 4 years later, I started helping somebody else because they were suddenly a widow. And then bam, all of a sudden, widows are everywhere. They're my age, right? We attract this. Why you guys are here? Anyway, gonna shut up. Lois, I mean, I'm gonna let you go now. It's 2 o'clock. You gotta go. Thank you
Thank you
so much.
guys so much.
Awesome. Bye. All right, guys, I'm gonna see if I can keep going to 2:30. If anybody has to drop off early, please do. You'll still get the replay, definitely, and you'll also still get the bonus that I'm gonna be telling you at the very end of this. So I'm gonna keep going because I gotta keep talking. No, anybody who's part of my group knows I can go on fun tangents, but I guess I'm so freaking passionate about this. Like you have no idea. Okay, so I want to keep going. So we were going around the circle. So Ashley, you had a chance to talk. I am going through what I see on my screen here. So Ursel, if you're there and able to, you don't have to go on screen if you have a bad internet connection. But if you want to introduce
Yeah.
yourself a little bit, please do.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. I have to turn off my camera. Just it's terrible. I live in Egypt, so just for the people that don't know me, so my internet connection is just not very stable. Um, yeah, so I've been a widow for 3.5 years now. Sole parent, one child, one daughter. He died 1 month before she was born. And for that reason, the easiest way for me to try to incorporate memories to my daughter is just by taking a look at her pictures together, like the ones that my husband and I have. And since most of it, well, not most of them, but a lot of them are in Egypt, that makes things a bit easier. And then we go to certain places and I tell her, this is where we used to go. Now that she's older, she kind of gets it. And able to take her to other places, like to more places. And so I think it's working. I don't know. The fact that we're here on our own, right? So our family, my husband's and my family, they are in Mexico. So they never really see them. She doesn't really see them in person. So I think that she's a bit confused because she sometimes is asking, like, so when is daddy coming? Is he going to take a plane or, what's happening? When is he going to show up? And I keep, she has asked this like 3 times this year.
We're aware, right?
So I just, keep reminding her that no, we can only see him through pictures and photographs. He's not coming. He's not going to take a plane and we cannot take a plane to see him either. So I think it's right now an adjustment for her. We'll see later on, like you said, Sarah, things will change as they grow older, right? And she'll understand it. She has friends and she sees that her friends have a daddy and that daddy plays with them. So she really enjoys playing with those fathers. So that's how I know that, she's probably wanting that. That's me. That's my inference though. I don't know, right? She doesn't say much on that. But so yeah, that's what I'm doing to create memories. And so far so good, I guess. It's been enough for her. I've never seen her sad about not having a dad yet. We'll see later on, right? But as of today, she has not cried once because she wants to see daddy. when she wants to see him, she asks for pictures and videos, and that makes her happy. And she's content with that. So yeah, I don't know what else to say.
No, that's fantastic.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate everybody here who wants to share. I really appreciate it because it's not just about, I mean, that's the reason why we are here to be able to say, hey, I understand where you're coming from. I'm there with you. Like I get it. We need that. I love I love the fact that she's starting to talk about him. It means that she's becoming more aware. It means that it opens up opportunities for you to talk about him more, though, too, right? It opens up those conversations. It
Yes.
becomes normalized, right? The fact that she has a parent in her life that's deceased, it is part of her life. It's just the way it is. And there will be times where she might, I mean, yeah, you're right. When she becomes more aware that other people at school will have fathers and she doesn't, or in social groups. But that's not just because their father's deceased. There's all these different kind of mixed families out there.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing for us. Now the fact that there are a lot of mixed families. I also want to add that I always have, I still have pictures of him at home. So his parents as well and my parents as well. So she is able to see him everywhere. And I think that's important too. That he's part of the family. He might not be here physically, but he's part of her family. Yeah.
Totally. Thank you. Jamie, you're next on my list if you want to say anything yourself.
Hi, well, thanks for letting me join. Um, I have three kids. I have a 10-year-old girl, 8-year-old girl, and then a 2-year-old boy. And I've been widowed for just over a year. So we are still trying to, like the last year, I spent like a lot of trying to organize business and administrative. And now we just moved from Minnesota to Florida. And so now we are 3 weeks here, just trying to settle in this new life that we're trying to start. But the weather is amazing. So it's not -45 like it's Minnesota, and it's sunny and
I'm in Toronto. We just got dumped with 1/2 meter of snow. Which
yuck.
I just did the math this morning. That's like just over 3 feet of snow.
Yeah.
It's
I can't do winter and dreary and cold anymore because it's depressing. So, but I also am finding that I have to find babysitters or a nanny or something because I am attempting to homeschool because we're at a Christian school and we can't get in till fall. So I'm homeschooling and it is 24/7 and we need space. So
yes, you need take breaks.
yes. But for memory, I think our biggest thing that we struggle with that. The kids don't really like to talk about their dad. So I'll kind of bring it up. We talk about him at night for our anniversary, his birthday, and then so his birthday was the 28th of September and then 25th, and then October 15th is when he died. So we kind of they want to go to the cemetery both days, and that's the only thing we've really done. But I'm like drowning in construction and moving and business, and I'm like, someday it's gonna settle down. The administrative side, I think, hopefully.
I did not understand the amount of administrative stuff that happens after they die. And you have to make these big decisions, like literally life-changing decisions in a moment where you can't think properly.
Yeah.
It's like the worst.
Like he was a single owner of a construction business. So this last year I tried to sell it and I managed it all year and I didn't get it sold. So I hired a management company and that was a lot last year. So, but I through a lot of prayer, and God is good, and I don't know.
We'll figure
There's
it out.
yeah, we're
Okay,
still here.
you are still here and you're doing things you never thought you could do on your own, right?
Yeah.
One of my clients, she just started a blog recently and she named it You Can Do Hard Things. And I'm like, that is so apt. I love that so much. It's amazing. When you went to do the cemetery, how did your kids react to it? Like individually?
They don't really say, they still didn't really talk about him. They kind of just played with their cousins and everyone that came because we threw a big party there. So there was like 30 people at the cemetery both times to run
Oh.
around. And that's what they're like, we need to do it again and just hang out with everybody. So I don't know. We'll see.
I think that it's an interesting it's an interesting express a way of showing though too how kids can kind of go in and out of death really quickly. Like, oh look, dad's dead. There's a cemetery. Let's go play. Like, it's
Yeah.
very different for them, and they've just it's normalized for them too.
Yeah. And we haven't gotten into like to find a therapist that we like, but we went to Camp Widow and we've done some widowed camps with kids just so they know that it's not like there are others out there and stayed connected with them. So that's been
Oh, absolutely.
good.
That's good. I'm so glad they did that.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas of what you want to do for like the next milestones that you can?
No, well, I don't know because we don't live there anymore. So I
No.
don't.
Okay. All right. I mean, let's keep going then because you're still in you're going through you're getting out of fog into stop being so reactionary to actually being proactive and let's do my life now. So you have time to figure this out, obviously. So I'm going to keep going so we can keep throwing out ideas before it gets too late. I'm actually okay with going a little bit later, but if people want to, but I'm gonna keep going. Oh, people moved around on here. Okay, we got Ashley, Jamie went, Arcel went, uh, Jennifer in the Phoenix group. Please, you're next on my list. How about you? Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Okay, I am Jennifer. We are 6 weeks out from his 5-year death anniversary, so we're getting there. I was 49 when he passed, and my kids were 10 and 11. So I'm on the older end of the young widows. But my stage of life is obviously younger because of my kids being younger. Um, the first thing I did, I made 2 photo books with lots of pictures of him through. I didn't have that many because he didn't let me take too many pictures of him. So I made them for the kids for memory. And I didn't caption them or say anything on them because my brain wasn't working well enough to do that. But the spine does have Mark John Kowalski and his birth date and his death date on it. And the kids will pull them out and look at it sometimes. It's more my daughter that does it. Um, my daughter seems to like to remember him more, and she has the dark humor. She was in class the other day and they were talking, and she's like, yeah, my dad's dead. The guy's like, no, but really? She's like, no. And he's like, I can't tell. Are you joking? And she's like, obituary, Mark Kowalski. See, he's dead. And she's like, see, that's me in there. And he's, oh, okay, you're not kidding. Um, so she tends to like to remember him with the dark humor. I know we do a lot of, well, what do you think your dad would have said with this? Or, aren't you glad your dad's not here to teach you to drive? Or would you have preferred it? Like we sort of say the what ifs and the what would we have done if he was here. We those are kind of how we talk about him and remember him the most. Um, and as you said, his stocking is up on the mantle every year, that sort of thing. My son has having a harder time with it. Like I didn't when Mark was alive, I felt like I did 95% of the parenting. So the parenting burden isn't harder now that he's gone. Some of it's easier because I don't like, oh, we're out, I'll get dinner. We don't have to go home and cook for dad. But the grieving for my children not having their father is so heavy. Um, so that's the difference. I feel like the day-to-day managing the children isn't much different than if he were here. There are a few times where I'm like, I would have asked for his help to get one kid somewhere, but I typically did it all. But I mourn for them not having them. And he really had a good relationship with his dad. They would have hour-long discussions about I don't know what. But I was cooking dinner and I was like, good, no one's under my foot. Go talk to your father. It's great. I mean, to the point now where they'll come up and ask me a question. I'm like, I don't know. Go ask your dad. They're like, Mom, we can't. I'm like, I know. But I don't know the answer. Go ask Google then if you can't ask your dad. But we joke about it and we're okay with it. And yes, we miss him and we've come into a peaceful existence that's very different than if he were here. He died during the shutdown, so we don't know how much of our life is different because life changed for everybody and how much of it's different because he's not here. Um, we kind of just hibernated for almost 2 years. Like we really didn't do much because everything shut down and then everything changed and then they didn't want to go back to any of the activities and things that they did when he was here. So um, everything's different. There's almost nothing we do the same that we did when he was here. Um, we live in the same place, we have the same car, but the kids go to different schools. They're not homeschooled anymore. They do different activities. Um, and I mean, I've become the yes mom. Is it safe? Yes, you can do it. Is it going to cost thousands of dollars? Can we afford it? No. Yes, we can do it if you can afford it. So, like, they know I'm a safe space, I think is where we're at now, and they know I've faced hard things and I fall apart for a few minutes here and there, but they know I'm strong and I can get them through, and I think that's helped them um, in so many ways, and they're doing pretty good, and I'm really bad at doing lots of memories for them. So the photo books is the best I've done, I think. And if they have questions, I try to remember, but I wish his family was more involved and could tell them memories of their dad and things. And that's just not what our life is right now. So that's my story.
We are the keeper of his memories, I find. Like we really are. Because as you guys all know, hopefully you don't, but I would imagine the majority of you guys do know that once they pass away, you lose him, and then everybody else kind of goes away too, right? And then like friends, family, support systems. That's why you have to create your own new systems. But that also means you're losing those memories that they had of him. You reach out, and I remember reaching out after my husband died, and had like 3 or 4 people came up and said, "I will be his father. I'll be the father figure for him. I'll step up, or I'll ask them. I asked them for like, please, can you give me like memories of him, like write them down, make video, just something, because it's not just my perspective that they need to hear." And I got crickets, and it's
Same thing happened
disappointing.
to me.
Oh yeah, tell.
Oh, the same thing. I like right when he died, I asked. He had so many friends, so many. And I put it out there like on Facebook and stuff, and like people that have memories of Josh, can you just share a memory? Because I want to put them together for my kids. And like I didn't really get any. And I'm like, wow, like that's crazy because he had so many good friends. I know these people like cared about him and loved him, but I mean,
Yeah, that's hard, right?
yeah, it is.
It's hard because, I mean, you are the keeper of his memories, and it's your responsibility to be able to share them with your kids as much as possible, as organically as possible. But it
Yeah.
sucks because you're only telling
I'm
them a
putting my
part of
own spin
about their
on it.
life, right?
Yeah.
But you're doing okay. Like you're doing the best you can, and you're not gonna be able to know. I mean, I can't. There's parts about your husband you're never gonna be able to know either. Like the only person you really know intimately is yourself,
Mhm.
right? And you can only tell things from your own perspective. It doesn't mean they're any less valid. And besides, like, who would know? I don't even know. Like, I know something talk about planting seeds, and a lot of things will stick, and the other things are like they're not gonna. You don't know what you're gonna pick. Your kids are gonna pick up on, and they don't, and what becomes important to them. And as they grow, that changes too, right? What's important to them as they grow, what they know about the world and their father is going to change too. And you can't anticipate that. You can't have every answer for them. Anyway, I think you're doing great. Who's on my list? Jennifer. Oh, wait, people moved around. Okay. Okay. Jennifer Jimerson. Oh my God. I'm glad you came actually, because you were one of the people I was trying to reach out to, and you reached out to me and like, I literally was gonna be on your like DMs like that afternoon. So good timing.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm out running errands, and as we're here and my next errand, one of my neighbors and his little girl's walking by, and it's just like tugging at my heartstrings. So, ugh, these moments, like when you're just like out in your community and your safe spaces, and these just little peaks of the life you don't get to have, kind of smack you in the face. That's the hard part. Um, I can kind of I can totally relate, mimic, echo all of it. I'm 13 months out now. Um, Still, like, I thought I was done with the admin stuff. I have a table of death admin that sits in the kitchen. Um, thought I was done with it, and any given day, a trip to the mailbox changes that, right? So last week I opened up something, and now I have 3 lawyers that I didn't know I was going to need to have, and I'm having to go to court for money and you know, uh, for all the things that we have to do for our kids. And it's frightening, and it's costing me a fortune that I didn't have. And I'm driving a friend's car, and had to tuck out on this call for a second because my car's in the shop and it's a catalytic converter issue in the middle of all of this snow. So, there's no money for that. I'm just tired. My plate's full. I have the whole buffet on my plate and stuff's falling off. And that's just how it is. We just have to accept it. Stuff's going to fall off. Stuff's going to fall off the plate, but it can't be the kids. And I have a great support system. My mom and dad live a mile away from me. My mom's twin sister and her husband live a mile in the other direction. I have wonderful neighbors. Um, he has a few friends that have really stepped up to kind of not be the father figure, but give them an outlet to talk about dad. Like he'll take them out fishing, or okay, so my daughter is 14 and my son is 12. They're both at the same middle school. The juxtaposition of that is my daughter's 8th grade counselor is super supportive. We'll let her come out of class when she has panic attacks. But my son's counselor will not. It's the same school. So the amount of conversations I have to have with basically the same staff over and over again, it just is mind-boggling. And I don't have time for it. It's frustrating. My kids grieve differently. My son's very because he's younger and he's a boy, he just, I mean, I make these assumptions, but he doesn't want to talk about it with his friends, you know? Um, because a few times he has, they've not been kind or compassionate. They've been boys and they've said, rude humor, but when you're sensitive and you're feeling vulnerable and cracked open, those random boy jokes don't hit right. And it makes you not want to be friends with them anymore. My daughter, we've struggled. I'm trying to pull her through so much of this. 14, missing dad, being a girl. Girls are not nice. Man, are they just wicked, awful little creatures. So she's taken to cutting. She's been suicidal twice. I have a lot of family that have said, her emergency plan. If you just never need somebody to get you out of the house, call Uncle Mike and he'll come get you. But Uncle Mike's got responsibilities too and can't just drop everything when you're in a moment of crisis. And you can't plan them, and he'll make a plan to be like, I can't do it right now because, I'm at work, but as soon as I get off work, I'll be there. Well, to a 14-year-old girl who's needing you right now. Like she just, and then she gets upset and doesn't. So we're just kind of in that tumble of emotions right now. Um, as far as memories, I'm trying, I could, I reached out on Facebook and to all of his friends saying, I need you, if you have memories that you want to share, because I want the kids to have your perspective and I want them to know your aspects of him that made him so great, because his sense of humor was just, it was top notch and we all miss it. And so if you could, just write your stories down so we could laugh about this later. And no one's really followed up with that. So I was shocked until I heard you guys did it too, and you have the same result. So I don't know how we elicit those responses from everybody, but okay. So I don't know, hearing you say memory's malleable. My daughter, I think her expectation is she wants to have a memory and wants to have a feeling of safety and of dad, and she's just numb and can't feel anything. So then it started with cutting. She wants to feel grief. She wants to feel sad, and she's stuck feeling numb. And I didn't really know how that felt until Christmas. It was our first Christmas. 4th of July, I was a mess. I was really emotional. I didn't say anything or do anything. I was very quiet, but if I opened my mouth, I was crying. So I was a mess, frazzled mess. But at Christmas, I was really dreading it coming, like the weeks leading up to it, and panic attacks. How am I going to get through that day? It's going to be the most sad. I was in deep sorrow of how that day was going to be. I'm going to have to wake up and I'm going to be alone, even though I did all the work for it anyway. I could mimic Jennifer. I did 90% of the parenting. So that workload doesn't feel different. But, I didn't have him there to yell at or to, grumble at, like when the kids were opening presents that he hadn't seen because, you know, I did all the work. And so the anticipation of it, I was crying through all of that. And then actual Christmas Day, I was numb. I didn't feel anything. And I couldn't like, I felt pressure to make the day memorable. Whatever we do now is going to be what we do from now on. And it's going to be the new monumental thing. And the pressure, like, just crushed me. And I just sat there in like a panic, like in that freeze mode. I think that's what it was. Like I was just I put so much pressure on myself to come up with a big thing. Like, we're not going to do just balloons. We're not going to do just this. There has to be something unique to us. There has to be something that's just going to crack open the heavens and you're going to feel your dad, right? And this is the one thing we're going to do every year at this time. And I was blank and I was just in a state of freeze the whole day. And I felt nothing and I ate nothing and I did nothing. And it was okay that we did nothing, right? We got to tell ourselves it's okay that we did nothing. And I look back and it was just another day. And now I have regret. Like, I'm filled with regret again. Like, I want to make memories and I want to bring forth memories. So I'm putting too much pressure on myself to try and guide them through and have their memories.
You know what?
I guess
If you're this numb and if they're both, I mean, both your kids, I'm not sure if I have it on me. Have you ever heard about the window of tolerance?
For
No.
what?
Okay.
What's
So
it called?
window of tolerance. Okay. So the way we deal with things, this is all very instinctual and psychological and blah, blah, blah. But the way we deal with things, what we can deal with in a normal day to day, that's our window of tolerance. And sometimes you have the good days and sometimes you have bad days, but it's pretty much going, they're all in this little window. Then there's when you get stress, when you get trauma, your natural instincts, you do either one of the two ways. You either go hyper arousal, where you want to fight and you're like blah, and I call it the bear aspect. You're like, gotta fight, gotta go, just like everything out there, and you just that's where like that's your instinct of going. It's like, I guess, fight in a sense, right? That's the hyper. And there's more to it than that. I'm making it very loose. And then there's the other one, which is the hypo. And that's where you go numb. That's where you just retreat. That's where you like hide from the world. And that's why I call the turtle. And that's because they have all this heightened stuff that's going on. They're being triggered, right? All right. So even at this point, if they are both being, if they're still in that state of it's their primal brain making sure they're okay, I don't even think even if you went to them and said, "Here's all the memories," blah, they're not going to go, "Oh, thank you, mom, very much." They're going to go, I can't deal," right? You have a lifetime with them to figure this out. You really do. Like you're not going away anytime soon. They're not going away anytime soon. And if they're not ready for it, then if they're not, and obviously you're not sure if they're ready for it yet. And that's okay. If you did nothing the last time, doesn't mean you're going to do nothing the next time. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you can't do something in between those times, right? We put all these big expectations of milestones, and sometimes the anticipation of the milestones is worse than the actual day.
Yeah, very much so. But that's kind of what like our outer bubble sees. Like, if they don't know about the lead up to it. So I got a barrage of calls on Christmas Day, and I really couldn't, like, everybody was trying to like check in on me, and when I just had a very basic response, when I was very, you know, salt and pepper, they were just like, oh, they weren't expecting a tepid response, and I couldn't garner up enough energy to even like, I couldn't break out of that cast and come up with anything emotional. I was just like, yeah, we're fine, doing good. I don't know, sure, yeah,
Yeah.
word answer. I was like, okay, good, yep, have a good Christmas. And thank you for checking in on us. 5 days ago, I couldn't get up off the floor.
You
Pretty still wet on that spot of the carpet from all the tears I cried. Good now.
there's so much in there. There is so much in there. The ups and downs, the expectation you're supposed to be like crying, the anticipation, the fact that you should, why are you crying? You're crying too much. Wait, how come you're not crying? What's wrong with you?
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
this is the big milestone day. Like then they'll come out and they'll disappear and they're not there. Oh, it's yeah, all of that. All of that. Who can hear if they could put up their hand? Like you can put it virtually or whatever. If anybody come up to you and they're actually asking you, "How are you?" How often do you actually tell them, "Bleh," right? Or do you go, "I'm fine. I'm okay." Like whatever, right? Does anybody like feel like do you feel comfortable enough to go, "You really want to know how I'm doing? I will tell you how
No,
I'm doing."
I tell people and they've just come to avoid me now.
Yeah, which is the other
Well, that's
response.
the other thing.
And then they'll follow up with a, let me know if you need anything. I'm like,
Oh, I hate that.
I
I
needed you
hate
to
that.
stand there and listen to me. You don't have to come over. You don't have to bring me dinner. I just needed you to stand there and listen to me. That's it.
Yeah. Don't try to fix me either. Don't
Yeah.
try to
No,
make me
don't
feel
need
better. Thank you very
therapy.
much.
I don't need therapy. I mean, I do need therapy, but like, I don't need your answer to me to be go get therapy. I just stand there and listen. That's it. Nod your head. That's all you gotta do. Just let me get it out. But it just isn't. So now they avoid.
Yeah. So many. Jennifer, you took your mic off. Did you want to say
Yeah,
something?
I was just gonna say I wanted to keep it as a one-word answer, but I didn't answer fine because I wasn't fine. I answered surviving. We're surviving, or we're okay. Like I knew they only wanted a one-word answer, but I wasn't gonna lie. I wasn't gonna misrepresent myself and others, and they didn't want more. So all I could say was we're surviving, still breathing. Like that's all I could do.
Yeah. Yeah.
The early days are so hard, Jennifer. It gets easier.
I know it doesn't sound that way, and it sounds so trite. It's the waves will still be there, and you will still get triggered. It's just they're not like all over the place. They're just need to be you're steady, and then you hit a wave, and you're like, oh, okay. But I know how to navigate now. I know there's another. Like I know there is hope, and that's. I know right now it doesn't feel like there's hope, especially if you're drowning in administrative and just surviving mode right now.
Yeah.
But you get stronger and the waves don't knock you off your feet anymore and you'll get there.
Rachel, you took off your mic. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, just to go with the whole waves of, some days it feels like a tsunami and they knock you off your feet. But the important thing is to get back up, and it will never go away. We just get better at dealing with it. Um, but yeah, I've always said about the tsunamis of grief, and like even the physical side of grief. I completely underestimated the physical sides of grief, and how ill you can feel, how numb you can feel, how much in pain you can feel, all at the same time. And people say, "Oh, you know, I'm try, I'm you must feel this, you must," and it's like, if you've never been there, don't try to think about it because it's just not something you can imagine until you've been there. But you are doing great. For 13 months in, you are doing great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Rachel, since we're gonna keep going down the list, I think you're next, actually. Did you want to introduce yourself and your kids and anything that you've done from memories?
Yeah, so I'm Rachel. I'm, as you can probably tell, I'm from over the pond in Wales in the United Kingdom. Um, so I am now 43. I was 38, nearly 39 when Rob died. So Rob was 25 years older than me. So we knew this day would come, but we just expected it sort of in 20 years' time. We have two kids, a girl and a boy. Talina is 13 and Harlan is going to be 11 in March. So when Rob died, they were 6 and 8. So Rob died on the 16th of September 2020. He suffered a subarachnoid brain hemorrhage in our garden, which we didn't witness him dropping, but we witnessed the whole trauma of that, and phoning for an ambulance and starting CPR and all that before. I mean, the children luckily had a neighbour, a friend who lived just up the road, and she came down and she very quickly sort of herded the children inside the house, and there seemed to be help quite quickly. But so basically, Rob had been sort of faffing about in the garage, as men do, and between sort of 1 20-minute thing of "do you want a cup of tea or do you need anything?" and another, he just sort of he was on the floor. So they worked on him for 2 hours in our garden. They got his heart going again because at that point they didn't know what the problem was, and got him into a medically induced coma, got him to intensive care in the big hospital, and yeah, I mean, we it was COVID, so everything was locked down. But myself, and so Rob had three children from his previous marriage. So his eldest, so I'm 43. His eldest is now 45. His middle child is the same age as me, and then his other daughter from his previous marriage is 41. So we're all a very similar age. So myself and his son went down. We followed the ambulance down. My friend took our two children to her house for the weekend. She was like, "Just don't think about anything. I've got them. It's fine. Don't worry." Um, and yeah, I just remember sitting in this really clinical room and this doctor coming in with no bedside manner whatsoever and just said, "Hello, Mrs. Duke. I think your husband's going to die from this." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" It's like there was no buffer, no nothing. And yeah, so the CT scans had showed that he had this subarachnoid brain hemorrhage. His brain was basically drowning in its own blood, and I was like, "Well, drain it off. It's simple." But they were like, "No, he would be altered, like, beyond." And I was like, "I don't care. I will take him in any condition over losing him. I'm not turning any machines off. I'm not." I was so wired for the fight. Whatever it took, I was gonna do. Just bring him back to me. I'll sort him out. So he was 5 days in the intensive care, and so my our kids were back with me on the weekend, and we had a phone call at 5 to 5 in the morning to say things have got a bit worse. You need to come to the hospital. That was so it was 5 to 5. We got to the hospital at 5:45, and Rob had died at 5:30. Purposefully, I think, because he wouldn't have wanted the kids to see him with the tubes and this, that, and the other. So, yeah, I'm trying to be brief because I could go on and on for like ever, as you know, for the guys in the group. Um, I was very open with my children about death and any questions they had. I was, they saw their dad after he died. Um, Even I took them to the funeral home, and I asked them, did they want to see their dad, in the coffin. I went in, and I did say about photos. I actually took a photograph of Rob in the coffin to bring out to show the children to see if they wanted to look at that in reality. They said yes. So in we went, and I was, like, as Sarah and the guys know, I was really I was basically told that I should never have taken my children in there to see their dad in a coffin. Um, but my argument always was, I can and will help them deal with any trauma that brings into them. But what I can't do is, if I shut them away from everything in 20 years' time and they say to me, "You denied me the chance to say goodbye to my dad," I can't give them that back. So for me, I did what was right for me in my gut. And I think it's really important to listen to your own self, because everybody else will have an opinion. Nobody else has been in your shoes. Well, those people who have the opinions, very few of them will have been in your shoes, and they'll all think they know the answers. But so I going on memories, photographs. Rob was never one for wanting to have photographs taken. I did. I did take them, of him and the kids, because I knew, probably in the back of my mind, that they would be important. And then I remember the one night I was going through my phone, and it wasn't long after Robert died. And for whatever reason, I held my thumb on a photo for longer than and then I realized that iPhones have live photos, and there was a bit of sound and a bit of, like, so the minute I knew that this feature was there, I was literally up all night going through every photo that Rob was in, holding the photos to see if there was any sound of him, any words, and it was both, like, heartbreaking and exhilarating at the same time, because maybe I hadn't lost everything that, and there was this one photo, and I don't know why it was longer than most of the others. And there's a clip in the video, in the photo. We're at a party for Harlan, our little boy. And in this photo, you clearly hear Rob saying, "You okay? You all right, darling? Take care, sweet pea." And I'm like, oh my God. Because, like, I know I'll never forget Rob's voice. But for me, the children were young. It might be different for them. I was scared that they would forget. So, like, that was 2020. I mean, we've got photos of Rob and us, like, in most rooms in the house. There's like going up the stairs, and because I just didn't want them to forget. And you do wonder sort of how much of their memories are their own, or are they, from things that I've said, or. But I mean, I've taken, I took photos of, like, when Rob was in the hospital. I mean, they're in a hidden folder on my phone, because unless you're wanting to see them, they could be a bit. Oh. And I don't even remember taking it, but I remember that I was going through my phone, and I even took a photo of Rob in the garden with the paramedics. Like, and I remember I was walking, because my cousin is a paramedic. He came and he was like, just go in the house for a bit. You don't need to be seeing this. And I remember I must have had my phone on, like, camera or whatever. And I remember saying out loud to Rob, just work with them, love, work with them. And I must have taken a photo at the same time. So I've got all the different sorts of I've got lovely photos. I've got, the traumatic photo that, and for me, and this is the big memory thing. Like, the kids, when it was Rob's birthday, they wanted to get a cake, and so I was like, yeah, that's fine. We can do a cake, put candles on it, and blow them out, and wish Daddy a happy birthday. Well, my stepdaughter, the eldest, caught wind of this idea, and she turned around and said to me, "I don't really think that's a very good idea." She said, "You don't need to be reminding them that their dad's dead." I'm like, they're never going to forget any day of the week. So what an absolutely stupid thing to say, you know? And we did it anyway, because that's what my kids wanted to do, and their feelings mattered more to me. And it's become a bit of a tradition now, we get a cake and we put a couple of candles on it, and they say what they want to say to Daddy, and then they blow the candles out, and it's become our thing. But if I'd listened to other people, I would have not done that. So I think it's important to listen to your heart, because it knows you best.
Rachel, whenever you speak about these things, you have such a gravitas to your words. They're so heartfelt, and you can feel them in your soul. And I think everybody here can feel it, like, resonating in their own soul, because you speak truth. Like, you really do. Like, everything you do is amazing. And that's the most, not knowing what they're going to remember or not remember. It's memory is something, it is malleable. It is so hard to know what you're going to hang on to. And I definitely feel that I'm afraid, I know I was terrified that I would lose all my memories of Mike after he passed away, because you do. You can't remember everything. You can't. Your brain doesn't work that way. And it's scary because you want to hang on to all those things and you can't. So it feels like you're missing out, that you're missing him.
Yeah.
But then you get, but then, and you do, because you can't hang on to everything. And you can't hang on to everything for your kids. And you can't stop them from going through the worst thing that they could ever go through,
Yeah.
you know?
That's the other thing. I mean, I've always said nothing in life will ever hit me as hard as Rob's death. So I've done the worst day of my life. I've come through the other side of it. And that's the other thing to remember is when you've got a bad day, you've got 100% track record of coming through those bad days so far.
I love that.
So, keep that. I remember like after my daughter and I left Rob because we were all there, and so Harlan was only 6. He wanted to go for breakfast, so they took him for breakfast. Helena and I were there for 2 hours, and as we left, because obviously you have to leave at some point, we were going past the hospital radio booth, and as I walked past, it was playing "The Eye of the Tiger" by Survivor. And as we were walking past, it was literally playing "The Thrill of the Fight." And I was like, this is where it begins. And I remember it as though it was yesterday. And I knew from that moment on, that was where my fight began. And, I'm still standing. Some days only just. I'm still standing. And we stand stronger together, which is why, I mean, this group has been an absolute lifesaver for me. And if I can help anybody else in the way that this group has helped me, then, that's what it's all about paying it forward.
For those who don't know, so this is the workshop right now for it's open to everybody. But we actually do have a membership group called Rise Like a Phoenix, and what we work on is bitching and venting, yes, but it's more importantly, it's what do we do next? Like we can sit here and we can be in our little hole, but because we know we're strong warriors and we can get through the other side. And the reason why I call it Rise Like a Phoenix is because, it's like Rachel said, we have gone through the worst thing in our lives. We are going through the worst things in our lives. And as we go through that, everything gets stripped away. Like you lose everything. All the different secondary losses with your husband. Like you can lose your house and your money situation and your friends and your job situation changes and just everything changes. You've lost the dreams that you had. You lost the partner. And sometimes, even more importantly, you lose your identity. You lose yours, right? So everything is stripped away. Everything gets burned away through the horrible stuff. And you find that rod of strength within you. And people keep saying, like, oh, I don't know how you do it. You're so strong. You're like, I gotta do it. Like, what else do you want me to do? Like, who else is gonna keep this together for my kids? Who else is gonna keep this together for me? Because I'm the only one here yet. So we find that rod of steel, and we don't even know it yet, right? But that's burning inside us. And once everything gets stripped away, and we get to the point where we can breathe again, and that primal brain stops screaming at you, and you can start thinking again and feeling again, then you're like, okay, well, then now what? And we don't have, I mean, you were talking about earlier before, like, where is this widow group? Where do you find these people to connect? Where do you find that? And because we're only 2% of, like, this blew my mind. Again, it blows my mind, but also does not surprise me. So when we find together, we got to stick together like glue. We got to find our way to go forward. And so I've created Rise Like a Phoenix for people who want to be part of that and to learn how to grow forward, and with the people who understand we're going through. And we don't want to be static. We want to keep going, knowing that there isn't like, this is the thing you have to do, because it goes all over the place, right? And you can see here, like we're talking about memories or our kids, and we've touched on all these different points because they are connected in all the different ways. So I'll pitch it at the end. Actually, I'm going to pitch it now. So we get together every week for 8 weeks. There's a beginning where we all say, hello, how are you doing? This is our new cohort because every cohort we bring new people on. At the very end, we kind of like, this is what we learned, and this is like, guess we're going to kind of finalize everything. And then in between, there's 6 weeks of topics that have been chosen beforehand from you guys' input of what we talk about. And I try to do it that way. And the reason why I do it that way is because I know we have lives, we have bigger things that go on. Maybe you can't be here for the whole entire it's usually 2 hours, but I try to limit. We always seem to talk too much, mostly is me. We try to go for 2 hours, but because I know people can come in and out, we do have replays that come up. You can look at the replays like this one is here. I try to get a highlight roll out. It's not really working that well. I'm not even sure if anybody's been looking at them. So what I'm going to be doing going forward is putting markers so people know at this point we talked about this. At this point we talked about that. So if you look at the replay, you can go back to whether you're here for the live or not. You can go back to that saying and say, I want to know this first. I don't want to listen to the whole entire thing. I want to listen about this. Same thing with the whole entire 6 weeks. If you know ahead of time what the topics are, you can say, I need a babysitter for this day that I have to show up to. I can listen to everything else if I need to as I'm cooking dinner or whatever, and there's transcripts if you want them or audio or whatever. They're there. So we get together for 8 weeks. We're now, this is like near the middle of our cohort right now. We are ending up on the March 14th is our last day for this cohort. And we'll be opening up the doors again in April for our new people. We are always looking for more people. The more people, the merrier. If you're not feeling that you're not ready for you, that's fine too, because there's other ways I have to help you in that regard, which I'm not going to pitch right now. But we do have some exciting things happening too, guys, which I haven't even told you about. I'm always adding to this, guys. I'm always adding more. I'm like going, it gets better and better all the time. So we are opening up, and because you're here, you're going to get a dip to be able to be part of that. Everybody who has registered for this. I should have said this earlier. Everybody who's registered for this, if you've gone through the registration page, you see at the very end that by registering, you actually do have a chance to get a free membership and the next cohort. So you're already here, you already been registered, you have this. If you're looking at the replay, you have that too. If you're here at the live, I will give you an opportunity to chat one-on-one with me specifically about this. I know that Rachel and Jennifer, they'll probably put their hands up to say, like, we will talk to you about this because we want to be here for you. It's not just me. So that's going forward. So I'll just stop that right now because we're at 3 o'clock. Oh my God, I knew we were going to go. And you'll see like the way I structure it too, usually guys, is I do like, this is what we're talking about. This is like the teaching that aspect, and then we'll talk about it. This is the first time I've actually done this particular workshop. So, which is like, I'm like, blah, 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 at the very beginning, as you can probably see here, I get more comfortable, I get more interaction, and that's the way I like working with it. Okay, so that being said, I want to make sure we're cognizant of people's time because we're way over. And I wanted to, there's so much that we can go on about. There are so many different memory ideas and so many different prompts and so many different things. If you were here live, or even if, you know what, if you're here for the replay, I'm just throwing this out, guys. If you're here for the replay and you put a comment in, so I know you're actually paying attention, you guys are going to get a list of the best kind of ideas that you can use going forward for milestones or like even in day-to-day things. And I'm going to group them up by age group as much as possible. And all of these ideas have come from thousands and thousands of women that have been through like my free Facebook group, which is the widow solo parenting. We're up to 5,000, like over 5,400 people right now. I haven't checked. But I mean, this has been going for about 5 years now. I just checked. So I've been getting like things for better. I'm not going to give you thousands and thousands of different replies, but I'm going to be able to distill the ones I keep hearing about that obviously are connecting with people. I'm going to share this with you and by age group. So you're going to get that. But I also want to get you too is that because the replays are going to be available, you're going to have the replay for the next week. They're going to keep these up if you can go back to it again. That's going forward, going on. Okay, so you're going to get right now. You're going to get the memory, all the different memories ideas, the best of them. They're going to come to you. You're going to get the replays for everything for the next week. You're going to be able to reach out to me if you want to talk about the Rise Like a Phoenix. You also get an opportunity to get a free membership. But I do want to let you know too that if you come to these cohorts, you have to be ready to be here for the 8 weeks as much as possible because the more you put in, the more you get out of it. And it's also respectful for the people. So if you have any questions ahead of time, this is why I give you the time to kind of think about it. Because if you can find like an hour, 2 hours of your time to be part of the group, fine. The other part of the group as well for the Rise Like a Phoenix group is we also have a WhatsApp group. And recently it's been so active. Like we actually used to have a Facebook group when nobody really went there. It was really crickets. We kind of use that now. I'm going to be moving off Facebook. I keep talking about this. It is happening. It just takes time to move everything over. Right now, the WhatsApp group, it is there and it's 24/7. We are here for each other all the time. And it's been bigging recently. The support there from you guys when you need to reach out to somebody that understands in the moment's notice, we've been there. And because we have people literally at like different ends of the world, there's going to be someone there likely who can respond. And there's going to be somebody who understands this because we have people in the group who have been widowed like 10 years like me. We have people in the group they've just gone through their year or they're just coming to the air. We got people in there that have kids like who are 2 years old to like Jen, you have the oldest kids in the class in the group right now, right? Not a bad thing, not at all. Like I'm looking, my kids are 8 and 13 right now. And no, go ahead. Yeah, good talk.
Yeah, teenagers are so fun. Yeah, I have a 15 and a 16-year-old now. So
yeah. So you're going to get feedback from all the different age groups. And it's good because you get to hear what could be happening. And you also get to chime in of this worked for me. And so you have that camaraderie this way too. So you have that opportunities. And there's other things we can talk about too. Like I do one-on-one coaching if you want more than that. You know, if you actually want to like dive into what you have. I have the Raising Your Grieving Children Right course, which I really haven't plugged that much. And I really do. I'll show you guys too. There are so many different things I can have with you. I'm not going to plug you. But I do want you to watch your email because there are some bonuses that I'm going to be sharing out with you. Lois, who's here, she's going to be throwing things into you for resources. I'm going to be throwing you guys out a list of different resources you can find internationally that help you and your kids because there's so much going on, guys. There's widowhood, there's the solo parenting, the making sure your kids are grieving properly, like your own identity, like all of these things out there, and there has to be support. So the good thing about this, guys, is that the more we talk about this, the more you're going to find out there's things out there. And if you're not ready to talk about it, that's cool too. They're going to come to you when you're ready to talk. Like I didn't even know Camp Widow existed until like this year, right? The fact you're here is awesome. So that being said, if you got anything from this, I would love you to share it with people. I would like you to tell people. When I give you the replay, share it with other people. Like this is for people to other people that help each other. I'm gonna be blasting you guys with this all kind of stuff. So if you see your email, I am gonna be giving you other things on top of this that are coming through. And because we're actually at 3 o'clock, I don't want to pitch you anymore. Now, that being said, there is so much more we could cover, which we can't because we're going to be here like for freaking weeks. There is everybody who's here. I am going to be reaching out to you directly to touch in with what you've talked about. Because I know we haven't like dive into completely. But I want to shut up again, talk too much. I'm like, I want to help you guys. Oh my God. I want to hear from you guys. I want to go from who's still here right now about one thing you're going to take away from yourself. And this could be a memory of how you're going to deal with your kids and how you're going to deal with things later on, or how you're going to deal with you, how you're going to deal with your triggers, how are you going to even know that there are other people out there and you can do hard things, as my client says. I want to hear from you. What is the one thing you got from this today? And you know what? I'm gonna go again top to bottom from what I see here in my list. So I'm going to go from Ashley, then Jamie, and then Jennifer, and then Rachel. And anybody who's not here at the replay, I want to hear from you too if you're watching this.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, I was sorry. I can. I talk too fast. Freaking like throw things at me. I don't care. Real vulnerable. I would love you to tell me the one thing you got out of here today, because everybody who's here obviously got something from it because they're still here. I want to hear what that is. I want to hear what resonated.
For me?
Yes.
I mentioned that I'm 2.5 years out, and I feel like I was so in shock when everything happened that I didn't start grieving at all until, and like somebody mentioned too on the call that like you have a lot of support at first, and then that kind of goes away. And like I'm sort of at that spot now. I made some really, really stupid financial decisions right after Josh died. We moved, just everything. I am like overwhelmed and flooded, and coming here, like being on here, just I do have a therapist and she's wonderful. I've got good friends, but like you said, like they don't really get it fully. And so I think just being in here and realizing there's groups that get together and like talk like this and give each other ideas for like how to survive. Because that's the, I feel like I'm in survival mode right now, and it's just too much sometimes. So especially the kid piece, I feel like that just makes it helping your kids to grieve while you're just trying to figure out how to survive. It's really, it's not easy to juggle it all. So I appreciate everyone else that was here today sharing too.
Trying to survive, making sure the kids are surviving, and then trying to figure out your own way to grieve in between that.
Yeah.
Like, who has time? But we're here, so you're here. Like, good for you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Jen, you're next. Everybody's like dropping off like flies because it's been here for forever.
I always appreciate when we're in a group like this and there's the new grievers, and I can feel their pain so strongly. Still chokes me up every time. But I also love how much I can see how much I've grown and how much stronger I am. And I can feel where they're at and I can be proud of where I'm at all at the same time. And it just feels great to be reminded of that strength and to know, and I know for sure they're all going to do it too. And it's I love this community. I love that we all get it and we can share, even though our stories can be so different. The raw emotion is there. It's the same. And um, yeah, I mean, I keep coming back. So it's it's powerful.
So I have a feeling you're going to say pretty much the same thing, very similar to it, because we keep saying the same thing. This is a freaking incredible group. Like, I love this.
Yeah, this group is, I mean, I love these workshops because, like as Jen said, you see the new people and you see that that's exactly where you were. And sometimes, I mean, I know I don't always give myself the recognition that I've done as much work and come as far as I have. Because even, 4 years on, some days I think to myself, am I enough? Is this enough for our kids, Um, that's the other thing that always trips me up. I still keep wanting to say our kids, our house, our this. And sometimes I catch myself because people look at me as if to say, but I sort of pass it off, or me and the kids. But it's how you move forward. You don't have to move on. I mean, like I say, 4 years out, but this community and this group has absolutely been a lifesaver. I mean, I started watching Sarah's videos on the free stuff on the website, because even though there are grief coaches over here in the UK, but something clicked with Sarah. Something resonated far more. Everything seemed a bit more personal, and this is what we find, isn't it, Jen? With this group, it's like having a weekly catch up with your best mates who absolutely understand you, and you haven't got to take your words out of your mouth and look at them before you say them because they might be interpreted wrong, because everyone knows exactly what everyone else means. And there's so much to be said for that. So much to be said for being able to just breathe and be and not be judged, because that's huge. Absolutely huge. Lovely to meet you, Ashley. And she's saying she has to
Love
jump
you
off.
to meet you, Ashley. We'll keep in touch.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for being here for the long. Good luck with your meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we're gonna clink that up. I do, again, I mean, I want to reach out to everybody here, whether you're here in the replay, whether you're here live, they're still here. Hi, guys. There are things for coming up, that can be offering to all of you. Watch your email. That's stuff that I've been, again, kind of, it's been working in the works for a while. I keep teasing about it. It is coming. Louie and I always have things coming in, as well. She's going to be sharing things with you. But overall, you're here. You made the time. You registered, and I want you to know you are absolutely not alone. It feels that way, and it feels like you have all the responsibility on your shoulders because you have to do all these things and you take care of your kids and you like, how do you find it? You fact that you found time for you right now to even listen to this is amazing. So reach out. We're here. All right, guys, I'm going to turn off the recording and turn this off. Thank you for being here.